I'm leaving the house I rented in Muyenga, which is, I guess, part of Kampala, Uganda. And I rented this place for a month. Got it on Airbnb. I'm not sure how much experience you have with Airbnb, but they have, in most cases, they have weekly and monthly discounts. And usually a weekly discount can be, in most cases, it's maybe 5 or 10%. But a monthly discount, not all listings have monthly discounts, but this house did, and the monthly discount was incredible. I think it was 50% off the regular price. And the house itself was nice inside. It had 2 bedrooms, lots of room. There's a nice little kitchen, TV, dining room, Wi-Fi was fine. But the location was just not ideal at all because unless you have a car or dedicated driver, getting anywhere was just such a pain. I had to walk all the way up this steep hill, and I don't mind walking, but every day, a couple times a day, just wears you down after a while. I had to walk all the way up that hill just to simply get a boda to go anywhere. And like about 5 minutes boda ride away there was a couple of cafes that I hung out at. But to get anywhere like into town or to a supermarket would usually require an Uber, and a lot of Uber drivers could not find where I was located. I remember maybe 20% of the drivers just could not find it and ended up waiting a long time or canceling, and it was just a bit of a pain. So this is an upper class neighborhood in Kampala. Can't really see the houses very well, but because they're hidden behind tall walls, as you can see. But this is the people here definitely have money. There's a lot of foreign businessmen living in this area, and every time the gates would open and I would see a car come out, it would usually be a BMW or Mercedes or Land Rover or whatever. So the location for me was just not ideal. There's no grocery stores near here. There's no cafes. There's a restaurant, but you had to take a boda, and it was 5 minutes by boda. And I don't want to sit inside a house behind walls all day long. So I wanted to get out, and I like to have someplace close to where I stay, where I can hang out for a couple hours every day, catch up on my emails, my work, etc., etc. And on top of that, it's a bit isolating to be in a place where every house is behind a really tall wall, and there's not really so much sense of community. Another bit of a problem was, even though this may look like a kind of a calm area, even when you're in a calm area, there can be things that you don't really anticipate. For example, construction. Right across the street from where I was staying, they were building a new apartment complex, so they had construction noise going on pretty much 6 or 7 days a week, all day. And then down the road, some guy was doing some renovation on his house, and that was additional noise. And to top it all off, around 4 in the morning, it's every dog in this entire neighborhood and in this entire vicinity would start howling all in unison around 4:30 in the morning. It's kind of funny, but after it wakes you up a couple of times, it gets slightly annoying. Um, Anyways, so what's going on now? Now it's June, I believe it's June 8th, 2020. Nobody's traveling anywhere. Every time I edit one of these videos, I have this incredible urge to go somewhere. But right now, pretty much nothing's open, and even if it is, there's all these issues with quarantine and things like that. I had a ticket booked to go to Cali, Colombia on April 6th. Of course, that ticket was canceled. I basically took a credit so I could reschedule a flight somewhere else at some other time. But then I hear, like 2 or 3 weeks ago, the airline, Avianca airline, which I believe is one of the largest airlines in South America, I'm hearing that they're going out of, they're declaring bankruptcy. Now, I'm not sure exactly what that means. Hopefully it doesn't mean that I can't reschedule a flight. It may just mean that they're reorganizing, and I will be able to reschedule at a later date. When that is, nobody knows, obviously. I'm hoping early to middle September would be great. In the meanwhile, what I've been doing is I've been taking some online group Spanish classes, and I've really enjoyed it because it's a lot of work. Okay, you have to prepare for the class. There's a website called Lingoda, and they have these plans where you can sign up for 5 classes a month, or 10 classes, or 30 classes a month, which is obviously very intense. And I started off at level A 2.1, and now I just finished that. They have A 2.1, where you have to complete 45 of 50 classes. Then you go to A 2.2, and so I completed both those sections, and now I'm just starting level B.1.1. And so hopefully I'm hoping to get to B. There's 3 parts of B1 on Lingoda. There's B1.1, 1.2, and 1.3. So that's going to be almost 150 classes. So I'm hoping to get to B1.2 by the time I'm able to travel again. So the way these work is they use Zoom, which has gotten a lot of bad press, but it really is convenient for online language learning. And so they have a teacher, and then they have a limit of up to 5 students. Most classes are, I'd say, 3 to 4 students. I've had a couple with only 2 students. And it's pretty good because you have to talk, you have to prepare for the class, and it's helpful. What is also helpful is spending a lot of time just listening to Spanish YouTube videos. And even if you don't understand everything, Spanish is a very hard language to understand, especially as they talk very rapidly. So a lot of listening practice is definitely advisable. So anyway, the plan is hopefully sometime in September, mid-September, who knows, I will be able to reschedule a flight. I'm planning on going to South America someplace. Not sure for how long. That's to be decided. But I'm not gonna reschedule anything until I'm really sure that there's not gonna be any problems with quarantine or airlines going out of business and all this other nonsense. If Colombia is still closed in September, and they've been hit pretty hard by the situation, so it's possible they may be still closed up in September, or you may have to isolate for 14 days when you get there, which is obviously something I don't want to do. I was thinking, even Mexico, Guadalajara, Mexico, is a possibility. Going back to the Dominican Republic, even though I've already been there, I think, 4 times, and so I'm trying to go someplace else, someplace in South America, even Peru. But if things are still kind of closed up by September, I'm thinking I may go back to Mexico. Other places in the world, I lived in Asia for several years when I was a kid. I lived in the Philippines for 4 years, Manila. I lived in Taiwan 2 years, South Korea 2 years, and but for some reason I just have no desire to go back there to travel. I really have no idea why. It may be because when I go to a country, I like to either speak the language, if it's English, for example, Uganda or Kenya, or have a little bit of knowledge of the language, so I could go to French and I can now go to Spanish-speaking countries and hopefully hold my own as far as speaking Spanish. And we'll find out in September, but I'm pretty sure I'll be okay. And the issue with Asia is, I understand quite a few people speak English there, depending on the country, of course. Well, for example, the Philippines, everybody speaks English. But the languages there are just brutal, like Thai, Chinese, Korean, Cambodian. These are really, really difficult languages to learn. You know, you'll see a lot of kind of clickbait on YouTube, how to learn how to speak Spanish in 3 months, how to learn how to speak whatever in 6 months, or 2 weeks or 1 month or whatever. But it is really hard to learn a language. You have to spend several hundred hours studying a language, even for what is supposedly an easy language such as Spanish. These languages like Chinese, Japanese, Korean, these take years to learn. And anybody telling you different is just not telling you the truth. This may sound like a kind of a weird analogy, but I remember I was taking some Latin dance classes a few years back. And there's various Latin dances, bachata, which is probably the easiest. And it's the reason I always like bachata is because it's kind of easy to catch the beat. Whereas you have other dances such as salsa, and I remember I was taking salsa lessons, and the first few classes, I seemed to be going okay, and I was feeling pretty good, but this advanced guy came in. I think he was a Chinese fellow living in Toronto, and he's telling me, it takes 5 years to get good at salsa, and I was just like, come on, don't be ridiculous. But after a couple months, I realized it's really hard to catch the beat. It's hard to remember all the moves. It's hard to do almost anything. So he was basically right. It takes about 5 years, I would say. And to get good at a language where you can, function well in the country, it definitely takes hundreds of hours, thousands of hours in the case of any one of the languages I mentioned. One thing I've noticed during this situation is, I think it was maybe around February or so, late February, I bought a bike, and recently I wanted to get it just tuned up. So I actually rode down to the bike shop, and the line there was just incredible. So what's happening now is a lot of people are either buying new bikes or they have kids at home and the kids are bored. So what you see is a lot of families riding bikes. Like the last few days, I ride about 8 or 9 kilometers a day. And the last few days, or actually the last few weeks, I've seen so many families and mom and dad and 3 little kids on 3 little bikes riding all over the place. It's nice to see. But the only problem is to get anything done at a bike store, you have to wait in line for a long time. And the one I went to, the guy said, we have such a backlog of repairs that it would take 3 weeks for us to do anything to your bike. So looking for another shop. There's actually another shop where I may just I think you can call and set an appointment. So anyways, things seem to be opening up a bit, particularly in the last week or so. You kind of get the impression people are just sick and tired of being stuck inside. And so I live in Mississauga, which is a suburb outside of Toronto. And they've reopened the parks. All the parks are closed here for a couple months. They've reopened the parks. You see a lot of people outside at the parks. A lot of people just sitting by themselves, reading and things like that. Because a lot of people are unemployed here. I'm lucky because I've always worked. I actually have been working from my home since 2005. So I've kind of been self-isolating since 2005, to be honest with you. And the weather's nice. People are outside. The restaurants seem to be opening. The grocery stores are not as crowded as they used to be. You used to have to wait in line. Now you don't have to do that. And anyways, I'll leave it at that. Hope to be going somewhere in September. We'll see what happens. And when I do go, be sure to make lots of videos for that, for wherever I go. Okay, have yourself a nice day.
Camera. How you doing? How you doing? How you doing?